Hello everyone, my name is Shannon Nquin, and today I'm going to be telling an Arthurian legend. Now these legends most likely originated in medieval England, but the version I'm telling today is based off the film adaptation of the musical Camelot by Alan J. Lerner and Frederick Loewe. It began the day that Guinevere came to Camelot to marry the king. As was the custom in those days, this was a marriage of convenience, and neither of them knew the other before their wedding day. But as it happened, King Arthur fell in love with Guinevere, and she likewise seemed pretty happy with the king. Now, when King Arthur first came into power, England was divided. Their lords were fighting over imaginary boundary lines and more. And King Arthur envisioned a united England, and he came up with the concept of the Round Table, where all knights could sit as equals and settle their disputes with debate and words rather than by the sword. Now, this became famous, and word of the Round Table spread far and wide until it reached France and Lancelot. Lancelot was intrigued by this notion, and he admired King Arthur greatly, so much in fact that he went across the channel and pledged his entire life to the service of King Arthur and the mission of the Round Table. Well, Lancelot was a very goodly, saintly knight, and also one that had never been defeated in battle. And this was a bragging right that Lancelot was not shy of admitting. He was not exactly humble. And although the king loved Lancelot as a brother, the queen and the other knights in court found Lancelot a bit irritating. In fact, the queen devised a plan to knock Lancelot off his high horse, literally. She found the three best knights at Camelot and got them to challenge Lancelot in the next tournament. And so the day of the tournament arrived, and the queen is in high spirits, excited that Lancelot will get knocked down a peg or two. But of course, Lancelot defeats the first knight, and he defeats the second knight. And Sir Dinadan is the last knight to go up to Lancelot and the queen's last chance. And Sir Dinadan survives round one, but on round two, he takes a mighty blow to the chest and he falls to the ground unresponsive. The crowd hushes. The king and queen rushed down from their pulpits, but the king declared Sir Dinadan dead. Now, Lancelot, being a goodly knight as he is, he rushes to Sir Dinadan and takes his hand up his own, and he says, "Live! I pray, I beg for thee to live." And Sir Dinadan starts breathing. It was a miracle, and Lancelot performed this miracle. And Guinevere, witnessing this, falls madly in love with Lancelot, and Lancelot also falls in love with her. Now, King Arthur is not ignorant of this love. He can see it in their faces. He can see it in their eyes. And one day, when he's in such distress, trying to figure out his feelings on this, and he's talking to himself in the throne room, he says to himself, "Proposition, if I could pick any woman out from this entire world, it would always be Guinevere. And if I could pick any man from this entire world to be my friend, to be my brother, it would be Lance. I love them both." And he wrestles with wanting to get revenge against them, but he ultimately concludes that seeking revenge against those he loves is uncivil, and he determines to be a good king. Now, rumors fly about things going on between the queen and Lancelot, but the king turns a blind eye because he loves them both, and there's no evidence. Well, one day Mordred comes to Camelot, and Mordred is the king's illegitimate son. Mordred would like nothing more than to see his dad fail, basically. And Mordred convinces the king to go out hunting for an entire night. And he goes back to Camelot and Mordred goes back to Camelot and tells Guinevere and Lancelot, well, the king's not going to be here tonight. And they fall for this trap and meet for a secret rendezvous. But Mordred, suspecting as much, had gathered up a bunch of guards and basically caught them red-handed in the act. And this is enough eyewitnesses and evidence to accuse them of treason. Well, Lancelot escapes, but the queen is forced to stand trial, and she is found guilty of treason against king and country and sentenced to burn at the stake. Now, this is pretty far out of King Arthur's hands at this point, and all he can do is hope that Lancelot saves Guinevere before she burns. And Lancelot does pull through, he saves the queen, but at this point, King Arthur's knights are so enraged, and they demand vengeance against Lancelot. And so the king is basically forced into war against his best friend. And King Arthur at this point is feeling pretty defeated. He feels like his entire thing failed. The round table's dead. But as it happens, stories circulated about King Arthur and his knights of the Round Table and what they stood for. And in this way, his dream lived on through the power of story. Thank you for listening, and bye-bye.